I don't know how you do it. I put together some really impressive deals. But this thing you've pulled off, it's amazing. A big and tasty for just $1? How do you do it? What's your secret?
Got a buck? You're in luck. Because you can get a delicious beefy big and tasty, a McChicken sandwich, and lots of your other favorites on McDonald's Dollar Menu every day.
Together, Grimace, we could own this town.
The swing state blitz is on for former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris. Trump spending his weekend with voters in Pennsylvania, while Harris campaigned in Georgia, hoping to keep that state blue after President Biden's razor-thin win there in 2020. This comes as the polls show the race for the White House getting tighter as we quickly approach the final 2 weeks and 2 days of the 2024 presidential.
Serving up fries, talking to some of the workers as well as people that were in the drive-through line. But it's the video like this where you see him shaking the fries that you're going to see everywhere over the next couple of days. The photo op is the latest attempt by Trump to cast doubt on Vice President Harris's resume after she said she worked at McDonald's in the 1980s.
Mr. Trump, what's your favorite thing to order at McDonald's?
I like it all. I like every ounce of it, everything. But I do like the French fries while I'll be working. I listened to Kamala. She said it was so hot. It was so hot. It was such a tough job. But don't you have a man that's been doing it for many years at the French fries, huh?
I want to learn everything.
I'm going to learn how to do it right now. Thank you.
Trump is expected to spend a lot of time in the battleground states this week, with stops already planned in Nevada, Georgia, and North Carolina. But there are still no plans for another debate with Vice President Harris, and it's something reporters pressed Trump about today.
Because the election is going on, you don't do a debate.
Going to be awarding $1 million to randomly to people who have signed the petition every day from now until the election. One of the challenges we're having is like, well, how do we get people to know about this petition? Because the legacy media won't report on it. You know, not everyone's on X. So I figure, how do we get people to know about it? Well, this news, I think, is going to really fly. So.
A few moments later.
Governor, let me ask you about a development we learned about overnight. Elon Musk says he will be giving away $1 million every day to random voters who sign his super PAC's petition. You are a former attorney general. Is this legal?
Or fries from them?
You haven't received fries from them? No, we have not.
No, we haven't. Well, achieving the American dream now costs you a staggering $4.4 million.
$4 million over a lifetime, rising from $1 million from just a year ago, rising $1 million from just a year ago. The findings take into account the estimated sum for typical milestones like weddings, raising kids, buying a house, and retirement. So how could this impact voters at the ballot box? Here to discuss is co-host of the Big Money Show, the great Jackie DeAngelis.
Good morning.
So this is kind of mind-blowing to me. I'm not very good with like all the money numbers and everything, but $1 million increase over the course of a lifetime to achieve the basic things we expect to have in America seems stunning to me.
It is stunning. And I love this story, but I hate the story. I love it because we're shining a light on it. I hate it that Americans have to go through this. We are tossing around a figure like $1 million, like it's chump change. Some people don't save that in their entire lifetime. So I don't take it lightly that this price tag has gone up. The problem is this. It's that just when people feel like they're doing well in this country and they're getting where they needed to go under President Trump, the rug was pulled out from under them by the Biden-Harris administration. Let me give you some quick math. 48 months in their administration, the low estimate of what inflation and higher prices has cost families is, let's say, $1,000 a month. That's $48,000 a year. $48,000 over 4 years. That's a down payment on a home that they robbed the average American family of. Then they're going and saying, well, we'll give a first-time home buyer $25,000. We'll tack that onto our debt. None of it makes sense. People can do it on their own. Just don't strip them of their money.
And you look at young people today, I don't know how they even begin to collect a down payment on a house. And one other thing that I think is so important, you look at the numbers of inflation, and inflation is down from 22 down to in 24, and it looks like it's going down. But when you look at it, that doesn't mean prices have come down.
We call it, in my field, sticky inflation. It's very sticky. The prices are high. They have not come down, even though that rate has slowed a little of the increases. Last point I want to make. Bring energy costs down. President Trump wants to do it. You will start to fix the pricing problem. Take the regulations away. Start letting, lower the corporate tax rate. Let the growth machine work. That is not about giving tax breaks to the rich, like Kamala Harris says. He will do it. He's the only one who could do it. And the Dems love to say, but look at the stock market. We're at record highs. Everything's great. You know what? That goes in cycles, too. And one day the music's going to stop. And mom and pop are holding the bag.
And who gets exactly. Jackie, thank you so much.
Thank you
Always
for having
great to see you.
And I think the things we all want are simple, sensible, I think common sense things. We obviously want secure borders. We want safe cities. Sensible spending so that we don't have crazy inflation. We want freedom of speech. We want the Constitution to be upheld. And you know what? I'm being told at times that these are like right-wing values. I'm like, are you insane? This is literally the fundamental values that made America what it is today. And anyone who's against those things is fundamentally anti-American. And the hell with them. Yeah.
So if you do choose to be the head of the Department of Government Efficiency?
Yeah, those.
Yep. What do you think about we stop giving money to other countries such as Israel, Ukraine, and we stop funding forever wars that most likely is going to the deep state anyway?
Yeah. Well, I think in general the amount of waste that happens with the federal government is really staggering. It's a staggering amount of waste of taxpayer money. And if we're, for any given expenditure, we have to say, well, what does this do for the citizens of America? Like, how is this good for the people of America? It's their money. Like, for some weird reason, a lot of people in the sort of, state or whatever, the politicians, they seem to forget that the money being spent is your money. And if it's not being spent in a way that is beneficial to the American people, it's a misuse of the funds. So, yeah.
Jobs to look at those that don't require a college degree so we can start talking about good jobs based on the skill and experience of the worker and not random measures of who can do what.
This will allow us to better recognize the talents and competencies of all Americans we hire. You built once the most inclusive economy in this country's history, and you'll build it again. And I'm really excited about your effort to extend this working group and to reform our federal hiring practices as we think about building that inclusive American economy as we transition to greatness. So thank you for today, and it's a pleasure to have you join us.
Thank you very much, honey. Great job. Really has been. It's been a labor of love, and Ivanka loves helping people. It's a wonderful thing. Thank you. We're going to take a look at the Trump store. If Secret Service can do it, I'm doing it. I like the idea. We have plenty of time. What's your takeout order? I don't know. What do you want? Do you want something while you're there? French fries. I'll tell you what. How about if we gave you some French fries? All right. There you go. That's sort of a bribe, but I think a bribe for a buck is okay, right? I'm going to get you some French fries. Somebody come up here and take them. Let's get them some French fries, okay? These for the fake news. These guys don't get any. They're nice and warm and comfortable, right? All right, good. Give me a couple more of that. Oh, you're very stingy with that product. Look at that. She's a good worker. You want to have... That's the kind of people you want to have work. She gave them one French fry to 30 reporters outside.
Would you like 2 in a bag?
2 in a bag, yeah.
Okay.
Can
I mean, if you're on his campaign, and I know you are certainly not, I'm not making any implication of that, but what is the logic behind this, going to a McDonald's? I mean, we know the guy likes Big Macs and filet of fish, and he's used the word love to describe the way he feels about the food there before. But what's this about?
There's no logic to it. It's a stunt. He has not put forth an economic agenda. He, as you know, appears to be not well, and he's engaged in some really bizarre types of activities during this campaign. So this is just another one of those stunts that he will continue on through the campaign. And I think that we need to really focus on making sure that he is not elected, of course, because he is a threat to our democracy, but also the Harris loss agenda is about the economy, reducing the cost of living, reducing the cost of prescription drugs, reducing the cost of housing, and making life better for everyone. And that's what we have to focus on and make sure we get every voter to the polls and make sure that the voters vote for the future, not taking the country backwards, as you see what Donald Trump continues to try to do. So I'm urging and encouraging everyone to get to the polls and vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz to be their next president and vice president.
And the type of rhetoric that has come out of Donald Trump, people are ready to chart a new way forward, and they want a president who has a plan for the future and a plan that is sound and will strengthen our country.
All right, you heard that right. Kamala's economic plan is to turn the page on divisiveness. That's why nobody trusts her. She has no plan. Trump's got one. It's tariff time. Here's Cantor Fitzgerald CEO Howard Lutnick to explain.
Tariffs are an amazing tool by the president to use. It's a bargaining chip. We can't sell a Ford or GM in Europe. You go to Europe, you can't sell a Ford or GM. Why? There's 100% tariffs. How about in Japan? 100% tariffs. So do you think if we said, we're going to tariff you the way you tariff us, do you think they're going to allow Mercedes and all these Japanese companies and Porsches and BMWs to all of a sudden have 100%? They're going to come and negotiate, and their tariffs are going to come down.
O'Leary Ventures chairman and Shark Tank investor Kevin O'Leary. Now, Kevin, are you a tariff man?
I am, actually, in the case of China. I don't like tariffs generally, but China, we're in an economic war with. There's 100% that's the case. They don't play by a level playing field. I do business there, so this is not academic study I'm talking about. I've been screwed by the Chinese now for 20 years. I'm just one investor, one player there. They don't allow you to use their IP and protect your IP there. But I'll make a point about one situation that every American knows. Everybody loves TikTok, right? We've declared it Chinese spyware in Congress. January 19th, midnight, it has to be shut down. The Supreme Leader himself is using our court system to sue us in the United States to stop that from happening. Do you think I can do that in China? No. So what I suggest, and listen, this is just for China, I'd like to raise tariffs beyond what Trump is talking about. I'd like to go blowtorch heat on them, 400% on everything, bring them to their knees. In 48 hours, the Supreme Leader will be here in America saying, just kidding about this, let's work it out, because we can't do the same thing that they're doing to us. I can't use their laws to protect my IP. And frankly, I think we should settle this now. We are in an economic war with them. Why don't we just admit it? We tried for so many administrations for 40 years to make peace and say, let's give them democracy. They'll be okay with us. They are screwing us. Let's hit them hard while they're down. Their economy has fractures. I'm a big guy for asking Trump, no, not 27%, 400%. Here's why that works. Changes behavior. You want to get new yoga mats? You're not going to buy them from China when it's 400%. You'll go to Vietnam. You'll go to India. Let's hit them hard now. Listen, this is
That's
not
$100 yoga mat. You'd rather just lay on a field of grass.
It's a $400 yoga mat. You'll never buy it from China. The Supreme Leader will get the joke in 48 hours. Please, let's do this. I'm just one guy, but I'm an actual investor dealing with this, and they are screwing me. And I'm just tired of it after 40 years.
All right, we got to stop screwing around with O'Leary. He's going to take a blowtorch, hit him with a 400% tariff, bring them to their knees, see you at the negotiating table. We'll straighten it out year one, right? We got it.
48 hours. 48 hours.
48 hours.
48 hours.
All right. Kevin O'Leary, thank you as always.
About issues affecting their lives, like the economy and the border. Should the campaign be pivoting on its messaging?
So there's no doubt that one of the first issues that anyone will think of is the issue they think of when they're at their kitchen table trying to pay their bills, which is how is the economy treating them? So there's no question whatsoever that that is an important issue, which we have been in the process of addressing, and we still need to do more. I would not separate that from the issue of what is at stake in terms of hard democracy. And frankly, I think most people don't think of it in the context of democracy as much as freedom. The freedom of a woman to make decisions about her own body. The freedom to love who you love openly and with pride. The freedom to be able to be free from gun violence. These are fundamental freedoms that are at stake right now. The freedom to have access to the ballot.
Voters want to hear about issues affecting their lives, like the economy and the border.
I am Kamala Harris. My pronouns are she and her.
You're considered the most liberal United States senator. Well, actually, the nonpartisan GovTrack has rated you as the most liberal senator.
Do you have any plans to visit the border?
We are going to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. I am in favor of saying that we're not going to treat people who are undocumented and cross the border as criminals. That's correct. That is correct.
A lot of the signs at the rally you just held were people standing there saying, abolish ICE.
Yeah.
Is that a position that you agree with?
We need to probably think about starting from scratch.
So you support giving universal health care, Medicare for all to people who are in this country illegally?
I am opposed to any policy that would deny in our country any human being public health, period.
Are you for defunding the police?
How are you defining defund the police? It's actually wrong and backward to think that more police officers will create more safety. We need to get rid of money bail.
Convicted, in prison, like the Boston Marathon bomber, on death row, people who are convicted of sexual assault, they should be able to vote?
I think we should have that conversation. I am prepared to get rid of the filibuster to pass a Green New Deal. I have always supported Medicare for all. I was very happy to sign on to Bernie's bill, and I give Bernie, frankly, a lot of credit. There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
Do you ban plastic straws?
I think we should.
I have pledged to carry out the largest deportation, a mass deportation in American history. Imagine what that would look like and what that would be.
With education, down, down with deportation. Up with education, down, down with deportation. Up with education, down, down with deportation. Up with education, down, down with
It was a homecoming they had only dreamed of until today. Today, the Gomez family officially welcomed friends to their new home in North Austin. Gabriel Gomez tells us it's his dream. This is what he wanted for his children. It is the first home for this family of four, and it is the first time they have lived in anything bigger than one bedroom for 8 years.
¿Cuál es la reacción? Nosotros estamos muy felices.
Euvales Rengel says they are very happy, and this is an important step for their family. Originally from Venezuela, they worked and worked in food service as an auto mechanic, delivering food, factory work. When they first arrived in Chicago in 2022 as new arrivals, they landed at Grace and Peace Church. This home is the first of 4 distressed West Side homes the church bought, rehabbed, and sold.
We met them at the bus, and they were so distressed, and worked through a whole process with them. And now they're stabilized in their own home. It's awesome.
With all of their savings, programs to assist first-time homebuyers, and an individual taxpayer identification number, the Gomez family made their dreams come true.
Que realmente ahorita estamos viendo nuestro sueño americano.
Rengel says, really now is the American dream.
Grace and Peace Church plans to sell their other rehabbed homes to other first-time homebuyers of color on the West Side, to hopefully improve the lives of their families and their communities.
Wall, Chinese tariffs. She stole the fascist playbook. I know, it's stupid. Democrats have been calling Republicans Nazis from Nixon to Reagan to Bush and now Trump. They're talking Nazi because they can't talk policy. How could they? They've been in office for 4 years, and the results are a catastrophe. Here's what's happening in Chicago.
You've given us no choice. We got to go to the federal level. We got to go to Donald J. Trump, because he's made it clear what he's going to do. This is America. You bringing these people over here that's from socialist countries and all this and that, and y'all think y'all going to run that here. Black America said, no, you not. The true white Americans are saying, no, you not. The true Latino, the true Asians are saying, no, you not. I'm telling you, Brandon Johnson, from my heart to yours, Trump 2024. No more blue, no matter who.
Illegal immigrant murderers and rapists are roaming free in America. Those are stunning new details revealed just hours before Kamala Harris's first border visit in more than 3 years. ICE officials releasing stunning data showing more than 425,000 convicted illegal immigrant criminals. They're just walking the streets, including over 13,000 convicted of homicide and some 15,000 of sexual assault. Former President Trump pinning the blame right on Kamala Harris.
It's a killing machine. It's a killing machine, and they're killing people all over our country. And I've been saying this from the beginning of the Harris-Biden disaster. It's no longer an administration. And nobody who's allowed this to happen to our country is fit to be the president of the United States. They're dumping them in our country, and I never had proof. And I can finally look at them and see, I say, I told you so to the fake news. She should resign in disgrace for what she's done to our country, not run for president.
And Harris is set to meet with border officials and give a speech later where she will, of course, attack Donald Trump on the issue. A big contrast from what she said in the past.
I think there's no question that we've got to critically re-examine ICE. We're not going to treat people who are undocumented across the border as criminals. This administration has decided to vilify them and to trade on them for the sake of this president's medieval vanity project called a wall.
Would you be committing to close immigration detention centers?
Absolutely, on day one.
They have pledged to carry out the largest deportation, a mass deportation in American history. What are they talking about?
Well, what we're talking
make sure that we immediately surge to the border. All those people are seeking asylum. They deserve to be heard. That's who we are. We're a nation that says if you want to flee and you're fleeing oppression, you should come.
The importance of safety and security, especially at our border.
Who really is Kamala Harris? She's been telling us her entire career.
I support our sanctuary law.
The illegal immigrant deported multiple times who stands accused of killing Kate Steinle.
An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal.
Also have the courage to reject that term illegal alien.
Are you aware that there's a perception?
Do you know?
Are you aware that there's a
that
perception?
Puts ICE in the same category as the KKK. Is that what you're asking me?
Abolish ICE. Yeah. Is that a position that you agree with?
And we need to probably think about starting from scratch. We're not going to treat people who are undocumented across the border as criminals. I am opposed to any policy that would deny any human being public health, period.
Would you be committing to close immigration detention centers?
Absolutely, on day one.
How come she hasn't applied consequences the last 3.5 years? 10 million illegal encounters, 2 million got out of the way, 600% increase in sex trafficking, more terrorists coming across the border, a record number of people off the terrorist watch list, and over 400 million Americans dead to fentanyl that comes across the border. Consequences, there ought to be consequences for her failure.
We have a secure border. The border is secure.
Sickening new details about the murder of Georgia nursing student Laken Riley. The 22-year-old was beaten to death with a mystery object.
We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't.
Kamala Harris, do you trust her to stop the invasion?
I said when we became a team and got elected that the vice president was going to be the last person in the room. She didn't realize that means she gets every assignment. But the vice president and I and all of us here have been working very hard to pass the legislation that is going to beat this virus as well as get people back to work and change their prospects. And so she's traveling all over the country working that. In addition to that, there's about 5 other major things she's handling, but I've asked her, the VP today, because she's the most qualified person to do it, to lead our efforts with Mexico and the Northern Triangle and the countries that help. We're going to need help in stemming the movement of so many folks stemming the migration to our southern border. So this new surge we're dealing with now started with the last administration, but it's our responsibility to deal with it humanely and to stop what's happening. And so this increase has been consequential, but the vice president's agreed, among the multiple other things that have her leading, and I appreciate it, agreed to lead our diplomatic effort and work with those nations to accept the returnees and enhance migration enforcement at their borders. We're already talking with Mexico about that. She's already done that. We're going to be dealing with a full team now that we have to be able to deal with the problem here at home, but also to deal with it now in terms of in country. And I can think of nobody who's better qualified to do this than this is a woman who ran the second largest Attorney General's office in America after the United States Attorney General in the state of California, and has done a great deal upholding human rights, but also fighting organized crime in the process. So it's not her full responsibility and job, but she's leading the effort, because I think the best thing to do is to put someone who, when he or she speaks, they don't have to wonder about, is that where the president is? When she speaks for me, doesn't have to check with me, she knows what she's doing, and I hope we can move this along. So, Madam Vice President, thank you. I gave you a tough job, and you're smiling, but there's no one better capable of trying to organize this.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, and for having the confidence in me. And there's no question that this is a challenging situation. As the President has said, there are many factors that lead President to leave these countries. And while we are clear that people should not come to the border now, we also understand that we will enforce the law, and that we also, because we can chew gum and walk at the same time, must address the root causes that cause people to make the trek, as the President has described, to come here. And I look forward to engaging in diplomacy with government, with private sector, with civil society, and the leaders of each in El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras to strengthen democracy and the rule of law and ensure shared prosperity in the region. We will collaborate with Mexico and other countries throughout the Western Hemisphere, and as part of this effort, we expect that we will have collaborative relationships to accomplish the goals the President has and that we share. I also look forward to working with members of the Congress who I think share our perspective on the need to address root causes for the migration that we've been seeing. And needless to say, the work will not be easy, but it is important work. It is work that we demand and the people of our countries, I believe, need to help stem the tide that we have seen.
Ay, tú te vas a dejar entonces sabotear la nalga. Saliste así para el video. Te vas a volver viral porque te tocaron la nalga. Yo no tengo culpa, estaba grabando. May, eso va para TikTok. Ajá.
Now more than ever, we're short of workers. We have a population that is not reproducing it on its own with the same level that it used to. The only way we're going to have a great future in America is if we welcome and embrace immigrants, the dreamers and all of them, because our ultimate goal is to help the dreamers, but get a path to citizenship for all 11 million or however many undocumented there are here.
Hi, I'm the director of Hispanic Engagement with Turning Point USA. I want to know about the children that you were saying that are on Twitter right now. Wait, would you answer this question real quick? No, I'm taking a picture real quick. That you're getting behind me and saying that you're fighting for women. No, I'm not going to back off. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. I'm asking her. She's saying that she supports Hispanic. Those ladies asked her to take I don't care. You're in my way. Don't talk to me. Don't talk to me. She is damaging what is happening to Hispanic women and children at the border because she's promoting family reunification with child sex trafficking. You're not commenting on this issue. You are directly impacting the Hispanic demographic in a negative way. You are directly impacting what is happening with the children in this country, and you are not doing what you're supposed to be doing as a representative, representing women in this country. Shame on you. You're not going to win.
When we use phrases like undocumented workers, we convey a message to the American people that their government is not serious about combating illegal immigration.
To try to prevent illegal immigrants from coming in.
If making it easy to be an illegal alien isn't enough, how about offering a reward for being an illegal immigrant? No sane country would do that, right? Guess again.
Illegal immigration is wrong, plain and simple.
We are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country.
Until the American people are convinced that we will stop future flows of illegal immigration, we will make no progress. When we use phrases like undocumented workers, we convey a message to the American people that their government is not serious about combating illegal immigration.
Illegal immigrants.
Illegal immigration.
Of illegal aliens.
Illegal immigrants.
Illegal aliens.
Illegal immigration.
President Obama was known as the deporter-in-chief, removing more than 3 million people during the Biden-Obama administration. Trump campaigned on Build That Wall. I did, no. The Obama-Biden administration. Trump campaigned on Build That Wall. Are you willing to tear that wall down?
No, there will not be another foot of wall constructed in my administration, number one. Number two, what I'm going to focus on, the fact is that somebody in this group written a lot about the border. I'm going to make sure that we have border protection, but it's going to be based on making sure that we use high-tech capacity to deal with it. And at the ports of entry, that's where all the bad stuff is happening.
What about the land confiscations?
End, stop, done, over, not going to do it. Withdraw the lawsuits. We're out. We're not going to confiscate the land. And be able to put on a sticker on their window saying, like a good housekeeping seal, you can come in here because we test, we distance, we do all the like. And so the practice is that the way he talks about the vaccine is not particularly rational. He's talking about it being ready. He's going to talk about moving it quicker than the scientists think it should be moved. And so it matters to let the people know that it is all transparent, exactly what the facts are. Let the medical community writ large speak to it so that there's transparency. That's the only time. Look, I think people are going to, as the poll showed, and we talked about it today with the two docs and my staff, that in fact people don't believe that he's telling the truth. Therefore, they're not at all certain they're going to take the vaccine. And one more thing, if and when the vaccine comes, and it's not likely to go through all the tests that needs to be and the trials that are needed to be done. And the question is he going to seek emergency move? Well, I think it's really important right now. I proposed a $25 billion plan for the distribution to guarantee that every single American has access to the vaccine. Because what's going to happen, you know as well as I do. If the vaccine came out tomorrow, how in the heck would we get it to people? There is no game plan they have. How would everybody in America have access to it? It is a gigantic problem to distribute, even if we have it. And that's what we should be planning for now, not when we get it.
Mr. Vice President, I'd like to ask you about health care, because obviously this pandemic has exposed many weaknesses in healthcare. In your platform, you'd extend medical benefits to DACA recipients, but what about the workers who have no protection, specifically farm workers now deemed essential to make Americans sure that they have food on their table? Should undocumented immigrants also be able to get subsidized healthcare?
If they are working in the United States of America and they are paying taxes, they should have access to health care. They should have access to what everybody else has access to.
This
Most
is
important
every
thing to
undocumented
do.
worker?
No, it depends. Not all undocumented workers are working. You say on every undocumented worker. Every person in the country, whether they're undocumented or documented, should have access to a vaccine if and when it occurs, should have access to testing and treatment and hospitalization if it relates to the virus. And that should occur, period. It's in the interest of everyone that everyone be taken care of, and everyone should be able to be eligible for that.
So just to clarify, you were saying that if you are undocumented, you would be able to get a vaccine for free, subsidized?
Yes. Yes.
I'd also like to ask you this. This pandemic has exposed, as I've mentioned, so many weaknesses in the healthcare system. The most vulnerable, often Black and Brown communities, have been handling much of the financial burden. Before the pandemic, you were against comprehensive single-payer system. Now, if Medicare for All came across your desk as the pandemic has hit so hard, would you veto it?
It's not going to come across my desk, but look, the pandemic has not only torn through our nation, devastating families and wrecking economies, it's exacerbated some of the worst inequities. I'm going to fight for health equities, but you don't need, the quickest way to get that is for Black and Latino Americans to have access to the Obamacare with a public option. That's the quickest way we can get everybody covered.
But hasn't this pandemic and the tsunami of layoffs shown the limits of private health care that is tied to employment?
No, it hasn't, in my view. There's countries that have, in fact, single-payer systems that hadn't helped them very much either. The question is, what do we do about rallying the pandemic and treating those who are affected by it? Everyone who's affected by the pandemic is access to free care for anything having to do with that pandemic.
Now, some of your most ambitious legislative goals, Mr.
A group of 2,000 migrants are leaving southern Mexico and heading to the U.S. with just 2 weeks until Election Day. According to the Associated Press, they are worried the outcome may tighten border security and end asylum through the CBP One app. Yesterday's caravan was the largest since the country's newest president was elected back in June.
The FBI is quietly releasing a revised report on violent crime. The corrected data shows crime actually jumped 4.5% from 2021 to 2022, contradicting the message from the White House. Meanwhile, organized illegal immigrant crime is becoming a major problem in several U.S. cities and smaller communities. Former Secret Service Supervisory Special Agent Chuck Marino joins me now. Chuck, let's talk about Tren de Aragua. We've got a graphic that shows the states where that Venezuelan gang is active. Former President Trump talked about the apartment complexes in Aurora, Colorado, for instance, that have been taken over by that gang. I have a friend who's an Aurora cop and says, yeah, it is absolutely terrifying what's going on there. Why is this gang taking such a foothold in this country?
Well, no surprises here, John. Look, this was entirely predictable and preventable, especially when you have an administration in Biden and Harris that has completely abandoned from the very start their federal responsibilities to secure the border and enforce the immigration laws of this country. So they own this in its entirety. They know it, and the American public knows it, which is why Kamala Harris is having such a hard time on the campaign trail trying to defend the indefensible in their inept policies, which have undercut our entire homeland security apparatus. It's also not a surprise that these gangs, which have exploited these weak policies, are setting up their operations initially in sanctuary states and cities, which provide them greater protections than they do for the tax-paying American citizens in their states.
Okay, so you say the Biden and Harris administration is at fault, or at least partly at fault here. Let's say Donald Trump gets in. Can he change anything? I mean, police are going to be going after these gangs no matter which administration is in power, aren't they?
Well, there are actually immigration programs that can be implemented. When you hear former President Trump talk about deportations, for example, that's entirely feasible. And not only was it previously used by his administration, but it was also used by the Obama administrations in the form of secure communities, which leveraged 800,000 state and local law enforcement officers to identify and prioritize for removal those that have already made their way into the country illegally that are committing more crimes. This is about prioritization. This is about national security threats, whether we're talking about ISIS-K, which we've seen examples of suspected terrorists making their way into the country, not surprisingly so, or criminal gangs like MS-13 and Tren de Aragua. They need to be identified, prioritized for removal. State and local law enforcement need to be allowed to work with federal agencies like ICE and prioritize these individuals for deportations out of the country. Let's remember, former President Obama earned the nickname the Deporter-in-Chief from immigration advocacy groups. So I'm not quite sure why former President Trump is the one here being villainized when he talks about deportations.
Former President Trump in one of the debates talked about crime being up in this country. I saw another network run a report on how he was wrong, that crime is actually down. But now, lo and behold, the FBI has revised its statistics, and they say that instead of a 2.1% drop in crime, we're seeing a 4.5% rise in crime back in 2022. And a good friend of mine who is in law enforcement says that 2022 and 23 were the most violent years in recent history in this country. Crime, he says, is definitely up. Your thoughts?
Well, one of the things that the current administration has gone out of their way to do is over-advertise the capabilities of the United States when it comes to vetting. And as I've always said with you before as well, is that the vetting is only as good as the systems that we're vetting against. And when you have 180 different countries being encountered along our borders, many special interest locations, they just do not possess the information that we need as a country to thoroughly vet these individuals. So the fact that many people are exploiting this, that very dangerous people are making their way into the country, and that we already knew that crime statistics would increase because they're becoming a greater portion of the overall population. None of this is a surprise. And the story now is starting to add up as we predicted.
Let me play what J.D. Vance had to say on Wednesday. Listen.
It matters to all voters, but I think in particular to women voters, especially moms of small children, is we see that moms care a lot about public safety. They want to be able to take their kid walking in their neighborhood at 9 o'clock at night without the fear that they're going to be mugged or without the fear that an illegal alien who shouldn't be in this country is going to commit some violent assault. We got to get back to public safety.
It sounds like you echo that statement from the vice presidential candidate.
Well, I do. It's the number one responsibility of any president is the safety and security of the American public. Yes, the economy is an important thing, but when it comes down to it, the American people want to be able to go out into their communities and not fear for their safety. So, yes, I agree with former President Trump that what's going on related to this border crisis that's been created by the Biden-Harris administration is going to be the top priority as people go to the polls. Their safety and security demands it.
Chuck Marino. Chuck, it's good to have you on. Thank you.
A new direction to manage an immigration crisis in a tough time where there's all this upheaval all over the world, where there are border problems all over the world, where millions of people are trying to escape the misery they're in. And other people are saying, well, I want to do what I can and take what I can, but maybe there's a limit to how much we can do. In other words, I don't think Americans are anti-immigration, they're anti-chaos, right? They don't want us to do more than we can, but they recognize, at least most people do, we got the lowest birth rate we've had in well over 100 years. We're not at replacement level, which means we got to have somebody come here if we want to keep growing the economy. case in Georgia not very long ago, didn't you? They made an ad about a young woman who'd been killed by an immigrant. Yeah, well, if they'd all been properly vetted, that probably wouldn't have happened. But if they're all properly vetted, and that doesn't happen, and America is not having enough babies to keep our populations up, so we need immigrants that have been vetted to do work, there wouldn't be a problem. And he couldn't keep people all torn up and upset.
All Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers. That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more, by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before, by cracking down on illegal hiring, by barring welfare benefits to illegal aliens. In the budget I will present to you, we will try to do more to speed the deportation of illegal aliens who are arrested for crimes, to better identify illegal aliens in the workplace as recommended by the commission headed by former Congresswoman Barbara Jordan. We are a nation of immigrants, but we are also a nation of laws. It is wrong and ultimately self-defeating for a nation of immigrants to permit the kind of abuse of our immigration laws we have seen in recent years, and we must do more to stop it.
If Trump doesn't win this election, it's the last election we're going to have. The Democrats, the Dem machine, has been importing so many people, bringing in so many illegals, flying in with this like CBP border app thing that nobody even knew about, like secret program. That's illegal, basically. It's illegal, but there's no action by the DOJ to actually to stop it from happening. They're transporting large numbers of illegals to swing states. If you look at the numbers, these are the numbers from the government website. So like from the Democrat-administered government websites. Like, where do you get this data? From the government website that is run by Democrats. There are triple-digit increases in illegals to all the swing states. And in some cases, it's like 700% over the last 3 years. Now, these swing state margins are, sometimes 10, 20,000 votes. So what happens if you put, hundreds of thousands of people into each swing state? And when somebody is granted asylum, they are fast-tracked. They can get a green card, and then 5 years after the green card, they can get citizenship and they can fully legally vote. And when they do so, they vote overwhelmingly Democrat. And the Dems also issue all these programs, these sort of handouts, essentially, that make them beholden to the Democratic Party. So they vote Dem. That's what happens. So my prediction is, if there's another 4 years of a Dem administration, they will legalize so many illegals that are there that the next election, there won't be any swing states.
You just think that anyone can come to the U.S.?
Absolutely. If you go to New York, go to the Statue of Liberty, what's it say? All is welcome.
I don't think it says that, but dude, this is great because I just happened to pick up 3 guys from Honduras. Well, they were at Home Depot. They're from Honduras and they have nowhere to go. So this just works out perfect. Look, Hector takes medication twice a day, and right now they got to use the bathroom. All 3 of them go to. Is it cool if they stay here?
No.
Why not? What do you mean?
I don't know them. Who are they?
All right, so they can't stay here then? It's cool if they come to the country, just not your house?
No, bro. Come on, bro. Come on, bro.
Hypocrite. Let's go, guys. Let's go. Sorry, man.
This is insane. Listen to this. I thought I heard you say earlier, did you say $13 billion in funding is contributed annually to the U.S. economy by illegal immigrants? Is that the number I heard you say?
Not illegal. These are DACA recipients who have the.
Did I get the number right? 13 billion. Is that right?
That's right.
Do you know what the cost is to the open border crisis that we're dealing with right now?
I do not.
Well, I'll tell you, the House Budget Committee estimates that the total net cost to the United States from the border crisis, quote, is more than $150 billion a year, with the lion's share of that going to educate children who are here illegally themselves or whose parents are here without authorization, end quote. That's from the House Budget Committee. That's a deficit of $137 billion per year. Who do you think is picking up that $137 billion tax, that price tag?
Comedians don't even need to write jokes anymore.
What I love about Texas is that you guys are like proud to be American. Because the first time I came to America, I went to Seattle. Very different vibe. I go to Seattle, I'm hyped. I'm ready to get off the plane. I watch Saving Private Ryan back to back 3 times. I'm ready to shoot somebody. And then I get to Seattle, everybody walks around. Every bitch I met had like green hair. Every conversation I had in Seattle, they were all like, you know, America is built on a racist agenda. Who gives a f? You're here on the winning side. If you don't like America, go check out Ukraine. Try to get an oatmeal latte in downtown Kiev, you ungrateful. If you don't like America, give me your passport.
To that bill, Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress and said, kill the bill. And you know why?
Donald Trump said no, told them to vote against it because it gives him a campaign issue.
Good Lord, is this disingenuous? Let's talk about what was in this supposed border bill. Out of $118 billion, $61.4 billion was for Ukraine. That's 52%. 12% was for Israel. 11% was for border security. So was this a border bill or a foreign aid bill with a border component to it? This is a classic politician move. Instead of actually addressing a targeted issue with specific solutions, load a bill with billions of dollars for unrelated stuff, make the bill hundreds of pages so no one can actually read it, and then blame the other side and say, well, we proposed a solution, but you shot it down. The Biden-Harris administration does deserve credit for finally signing an executive order in June that has substantively decreased illegal immigration across the border. But the Democrats held the executive branch and the House and the Senate for the first 2 years of the Biden administration. Biden has had the ability to unilaterally sign this executive order for 3.5 years. So why is it only now, interestingly enough, during election season, that they're proposing?
Conservatives had a problem with it. These are the 6 Democrats. But more importantly, back to the original premise, Jocelyn Nungari, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley, they are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated bipartisan bill. Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday, campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed. So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you owe
Brett,
those families an apology?
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases. There's no question about that. There is no question about that. And I can't imagine the pain that the families of those victims have experienced for a loss that should not have occurred. So that is true. It is also true that if a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago, it would be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border, more support for the folks who are working around the clock trying to hold it all together.
Madam Vice President.
To ensure that no future harm would occur. And this election in 20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election, because there was a solution, Brett.
Madam Vice President, it was a policy decision in the early part of your administration. I will let one of the mothers talk about it. Take a listen.
Because of the Biden-Harris administration open border policies catch and release, they were enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. This meant that they were released into the United States It was not even a full 3 weeks later that they would take my daughter, Jocelyn Nungare's life. I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible for the death of my daughter.
That's the early days. So do you owe them an apology is what I'm saying.
I will tell you that I am so sorry for her loss. I am so sorry for her loss. Sincerely. But let's talk about what is happening right now with an individual who does not want to participate in solutions. Let's talk about that as well.
But do you want to answer
in
her?
all fairness, I told you, I feel awful for what she and her family have experienced.
During that time, you said repeatedly that the border was secure. When in your mind did it start becoming a crisis?
I think we've had a broken immigration system transcending, by the way, Donald Trump's administration, even before. Let's all be honest about that. I have no pride in saying that this is a perfect immigration system. I've been clear, I think we all are, that it needs to be fixed. We need more. I was just down at the border talking with border agents, and they will tell you, and I'm sure you probably, I know you investigate and you are a serious journalist, they will tell you, we need more judges. We need to process those cases faster. We need the support for those cases that should be prosecuted. They need more resources, and Congress ultimately is the only place that's going to get fixed, Brett.
Well,
that's how this system works.
That's the premise of this question.
But
There were
that's how the
90
system
plus
works.
executive orders that were rescinded in the first days. Many of those were Trump border policies. I'm not going to stay here because there's other things to talk about, but you frequently talk to the Border Patrol Union for support of that bipartisan bill, and they did. They supported it. But they also just endorsed Donald Trump and said, you've been, quote, a failure with border security. Why do you think they said that?
I think they're frustrated, and I get it. They want support. They want support, and that's what that border security bill would have done. These guys down at the border, these men and women, they're working hard. They're working around the clock. I get it.
There's a lot of people that look back at what you said in 2019 when you first ran for president. And there have been changes, and you've talked about some of them. When it comes to immigration, you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's license, to qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free health care. Do you still support those things?
Listen, that was 5 years ago, and I'm very clear that I will follow the law. I have made that statement over and over again, and as Vice President of the United States, that's exactly what I've done, not to mention before.
If that's the case, you chose a running mate, Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, who signed those very things into state law. So do you support that?
We are very clear, and I am very clear, as is Tim Walz, that we must support and enforce federal law, and that is exactly what we will do.
So decriminalizing border crossings, like you said in 2019.
I do not believe in decriminalizing border crossings, and I've not done that as vice president. I will not do that as president.
So these are evolutions that you've had.
But let's be very clear. I'm the only person who's running for president who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations, from the Sinaloa cartel to the Guadalajara cartel to people who have trafficked in guns, drugs, and human beings. I have spent a significant part of my career going after people who present a threat to the safety of the American people and cross our border with the intent of doing us harm and cross our border illegally. And I will do that work as vice president. I take that work quite seriously.